as the price falls, when new expenditure is greater than the original expenditure, so when the price of a commodity decreases and you spend more money on that, then the coefficient of elasticity of price elasticity of demand would be greater than 1. And when the price comes down, your new expenditure is equal to the original expenditure, then EP will be equal to 1. And new expenditure is less than the original outlay. When the price decreases, you spend less now, then EP is less than 1. This will show graphically and also with the help of a table. Okay. Now, this is the table that I presented in the morning. Okay. And I had mentioned that you should remember this because we'll be using it frequently during this chapter, dealing with this chapter. Okay. A, B, C, different points on the demand curve, and price from 8 rupees to 0, decreasing price. Okay. And the quantity 0, 1000 up to 8000. This part of the table we had already used in the morning. Now, using this information, we can calculate the total expenditure. Okay, the total expenditure. Price into quantity gives you the total expenditure. So 7 into 1000, 7000, 6 into 2000, 12,000, 5 into 3000, 15,000, and so on. So it says you have already calculated the elasticity. Okay. At point C, it is 3, point D, 1.67, point F, 1, point 6, point 33, point 14. We have already calculated. We are establishing the relationship. See here, what it says is the price elasticity is measured by comparing the total expenditure of the consumers, the total revenue of the point of from the point of view of seller before and after variations in price. Okay, when new expenditure is greater than the original expenditure, then EP is greater than 1. So what it says is when the new expenditure is, this is the new expenditure. New expenditure is greater than the original expenditure when the price falls 7 to 6, but the total expenditure has increased from 7,000 to 12,000, and your EP is greater than 1. Okay, and next one, 6 to 5, there is a decrease in the price, but the total expenditure increases. So 1.673, they are all greater than 1. On the other hand, when the price decreases from 3 rupees to 2 rupees, okay, the total expenditure decreases. It is less than 1. In between, it is equal to 1. Let us look at this from the graphic point of view. Graph point of view. Okay. Now here in this graph, ABCD is the total expenditure curve. A, B, C, D is the total expenditure curve. When the total expenditure increases, the fall in price, okay, when the total expenditure increases with the fall in price and decreases with the rise in price, decreases, total expenditure decreases. When the price increases, then EP is greater than 1. So this portion of the total expenditure curve, it represents greater than 1 elasticity. When the total expenditure remains the same, okay, when the price either rises or decreases, here in this portion, whether the price increases or decreases, the total expenditure remains the same. EP is equal to 1. When the total expenditure decreases with a fall in price, here in this portion, the price falls, total expenditure decreases or increases with rise in price, okay, EP is less than 1. So in this total expenditure curve, the first part greater than 1, when the price falls, total expenditure increases. Second part represents EP is equal to 1, where the total expenditure remains the same. There is no change in the total expenditure. It remains the same, whether the price increases or decreases within this range. And the third part here, the total expenditure decreases, okay, when the price falls, the total expenditure decreases. See here, suppose the price is here, and then price comes down, then your total expenditure decreases. So this is the graphic representation of total expenditure method of assessing the elasticity. Here you may not get the exact value, but you know whether it is greater than 1, equal to 1, or less than 1. This is the total expenditure method. I hope you have understood, you have followed me. Shall I continue? Shall I continue? Okay. Bhanu Kumar says yes, sir. Good. Now, practical application of price elasticity of demand, where it is useful. Price elasticity of demand. 1. In production planning, this elasticity concept helps a producer in production planning. EP helps a producer to decide about the volume of production. If the demand for his products is inelastic, specific quantities can be produced. Whether price increases or decreases, the consumers are going to purchase because it is inelastic in demand. Then you can produce whatever that you are producing always. But he has to produce different quantities if the demand is elastic. If the demand is elastic, okay, then he has to adjust his production to the demand. Otherwise, let him just produce whatever he produces, he can sell because the demand is inelastic. Then second practical application is fixing the prices of goods. If the demand for the product is inelastic, a higher price can be fixed. Even if he increases the price, people are going to purchase it because the demand is inelastic. Whatever happens to the price, the quantity demanded, it remains the same, inelastic. So he can increase the price. He can charge a higher price if the demand is inelastic. On the other hand, if the demand is elastic, a lower price has to be charged. Okay, so if it is elastic, if the demand is elastic, if he charges a higher price, if the product becomes costly, people, the consumers, will not purchase it. So he better charge a lower price. Then fixing the rewards for factor inputs, the elasticity of demand, it also helps in fixing the factor inputs prices. It helps the producer to determine the rewards for factors of production, all your inputs. Okay, if the demand for any factor is inelastic, the producer has to pay higher rewards. Otherwise, he will not come for it, and vice versa. Then determining foreign exchange rate. Anyone has idea as to what is foreign exchange rate? Dipti TL, any idea
Yes, sir.
what is foreign exchange rate?
Sir, sir, no. Sir, I can't explain it, sir.
Okay, okay. Dhanush AR, any idea what is foreign exchange rate? No response. Keen Victor, what is foreign exchange rate? Okay, thank you. But the actual meaning of foreign exchange rate is, suppose you want dollars, American dollars, how many rupees you have to pay? Okay, foreign exchange rate. So exchange rate refers to the rate at which currency of one country, currency, your money, okay, rupees. In India, it is rupees. America, it is dollars. Okay, Australia also dollars, and so on. So it refers to the rate at which currency of one country is converted into the currency of another country. This elasticity concept helps in determination of the rate of exchange between the currencies of two different nations. How this rate of exchange is fixed. Every day in the newspapers, we read today, one American dollar is equal to 72 rupees. And the next day they say one American dollar is equal to 70 rupees. Third day they may say 74 rupees, and so on. How this exchange rate is fixed. In the international market, the currency market, these currencies, okay, they're all like commodities. If the demand for tomato increases, the price of tomato increases. If the demand for onion decreases, the price of onion decreases. Very similarly, when the demand for American dollar increases, its price increases. That means we have to pay more rupees to get $1, one American dollar. Why this price fluctuation? Why it changes? Because in the international market, when we import commodities from other countries, if we pay in terms of Indian rupees, most of the countries, they don't accept Indian rupees. So to make the payment, when we import commodities, we need usually readily accepted currency today is American dollar, and even euros and British pound it is acceptable, but the most accepted currency is American dollar. So we'll talk about, in terms of American dollars. So every country, it is purchasing American dollars to make payment in the international trade. So when demand for American dollars increase, the price of American dollars increase. So we have to pay more. And this is what it says. If the demand for US dollar is inelastic, that means whatever may be the price, we have to purchase American dollar because we import petroleum products from Gulf countries, and we have to make the payment in dollars. So whatever may be the price, we have to have American dollars to make the payment to Gulf countries. And Indian has to pay more Indian currency to get 1 unit of US dollar and vice versa. Okay. Then the fifth practical utility of price elasticity is determining the terms of trade. Terms of trade is, suppose we want, say, 1 ton of wheat from USA. We want 1 ton of wheat from USA. Okay. How many quintals of, say, rice we have to give? Okay. How many kgs or quintals of rice we have to give today? And what was the exchange rate in terms of goods last year, 2020? To get 1 ton of wheat, we had to give, say, 10 bags of rice. Okay, 10 quintals of rice. Today, after 1 year, to get 1 ton of wheat from America, we have to give 11 bags or 11 quintals of rice, Indian rice. It means the terms of trade is in favor of America. Okay. So the terms of trade implies the rate at which the domestic goods are exchanged for foreign goods. Earlier, we talked about exchange rate that was relating to currencies. Here, when we talk about terms of trade, we talk in terms of the goods, the quantity of the commodity. Okay, the terms of trade can be between countries. The terms of trade can be within the country, between agriculture sector and industrial sector, and so on. Okay, so it helps in determining the terms of trade. Example, if the demand for Japan's products in India is inelastic, then we have to pay more in terms of our commodities to get 1 unit of a commodity from Japan and vice versa. Suppose we want electronic goods from Japan, and in turn, we are ready to make the payment in terms of, say, potato. Okay, so if the demand for Japanese goods is inelastic, that means whatever may be the price of Japanese goods, Indians want electronic goods from Japan. We love them. In that case, it becomes inelastic. Then to get electronic goods from Japan, we have to give more of our Indian agriculture commodities. That is, if the imports are inelastic, the trade is favorable to foreign country. Fixing the rates of taxes, even for fixing the tax rate, the elasticity helps. More taxes can be imposed on those goods for which the demand is inelastic. If the demand is inelastic, the government can charge, it can impose higher taxes, because when the tax is imposed, the price of the commodity increases. But inelastic demand, whether the price increases or decreases, we are going to purchase the commodity. So higher price, it doesn't matter because the commodity has inelastic demand. Now, seventh practical application of price elasticity of demand is the paradox of plenty. Paradox in Kannada is Virodhabhasa. You expect something, what happens is something else. Paradox of plenty. A bumper crop of paddy, instead of bringing prosperity to farmers, may actually bring poverty to them because of the inelastic demand for food grains. What it says is, we always encourage farmers to produce more and more. We cajole the farmers to increase the production. But sometimes what happens is, when every farmer increases the production, when the supply to the market increases, the price in the market decreases. Okay, but what we expect is when the prices of commodities come down, consumers purchase more. Okay, when the prices decrease, consumers purchase more. But actually, in case of agriculture, what happens is the demand is inelastic. Whether it is low price or high price, we require 20 kgs of rice per month for our family. Okay, we need only 20 kgs of rice per month for our family. If the price crashes in the market, do we purchase instead of 20 kgs, 40 kgs of rice? No. If we have plenty in the house, then it becomes a problem. Okay, so problem in the sense we have to store it, we have to protect it from insects and other things. Okay, so we don't purchase more, and most of the agricultural commodities are perishable. You cannot keep it for a long time. So whether the price is less or price is more, then we purchase almost the same commodity usually. Okay, so when the farmers produce more, in the market price crashes. If all the farmers produce more, they bring it to the market because agriculture is season bound. All the farmers bring the produce to the market at the same time. Suddenly the supply in the market increases, price crashes. Then what happens? See here, this is the supply curve. Okay, farmers produce more. Okay, the farmers produce more. When the supply increases, the price decreases from P1 to P2. Okay, price decreases. But we may purchase, since the commodity is cheaper, we may purchase more. But what happens is the reduction in price, the proportion of reduction in price is much higher than increase in the quantity purchased by the consumers. Okay, so decrease in price is much more than increase in the quantity purchased. So proportion of decrease in price is much higher than that of increase in demand. So instead of earning a lot of profit, farmers may actually incur loss. It is a possibility. That's why we describe it as paradox of plenty. When we produce more, we expect more profit, but actually it may lead to loss. That is paradox of plenty. So this is because of inelastic demand. Then incidence of tax. Incidence of taxes, when the government imposes the tax, who pays or who bears the burden of paying the tax? When government imposes the tax, there are two parties who has to share the burden of tax. ಆ ತೆರಿಗೆಯ ಹೊರೆಯನ್ನ ಇಬ್ರು ಹಂಚಿಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು? Who has to share the burden of tax? One is the producer and the other one is the consumer. Now, whose share of burden in tax is more, whether it is consumer or the producer? Whose share is more? Now, if the demand for a commodity is inelastic, okay, if the demand for a commodity is inelastic, then larger share of tax burden is borne by the consumer. Okay, I repeat, if the demand for a commodity is inelastic, then larger share of tax burden is borne by the consumer to the extent of increase in price of the commodity. Now what happens is, here we have the graph. This is the supply curve, original supply curve. When the tax is imposed, cost of production it increases. When the cost of production increases, the supply decreases. The price increases. When the tax is imposed, the price increases. Here in this graph, A, B, C, this portion, okay, A, B, C, it represents the total tax. Okay, this difference represents the total tax. Of this, the upper portion is the share of consumer and the lower portion is the share of the producer. AB here is greater than BC. This small portion is producer's share. This larger portion is consumer's share. Okay, so share of consumer is more than share of producer. Okay, though the tax is imposed on the producer, larger proportion of the burden is shared by the consumer. Okay, because the production decreases, supply decreases, price in the market goes up, and the demand is inelastic. The consumer, though the price is higher, the consumer has to pay higher price and purchase. So the producer passes on larger proportion of the tax to the consumer. ತನ್ನ ಮೇಲೆ ಬಿದ್ದಿರೋ ತೆರಿಗೆಯ ಹೊರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಭಾಗವನ್ನ ಗ್ರಾಹಕರಿಗೆ ತಳ್ಳಿಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ. Okay, so this is what it says. If the demand for the commodity is inelastic. On the other hand, if the demand for the commodity is elastic, then, okay, then also the supply decreases, the price goes up. But what happens is, since I'll go back to the previous one, here the demand curve is inelastic. The demand curve is inelastic. Since the demand curve is inelastic, the proportion of the tax burden of the consumer is more. But here, the demand curve is more elastic. Since it is more elastic, okay, the share of consumer is less and the share of producer is more. AB is less, BC is more. So producers have to pay a larger proportion of the tax burden. So that is incidence of tax. If the demand for a commodity is elastic, the tax burden is shared to a greater extent by the producer. Then ninth one is impact of devaluation of currency. Any idea as to what is devaluation of currency? Anyone? Anyone? Devaluation of currency. Devaluation of currency. Anyone? No? Somebody in the chat box. Decrease in the value of currency. Bhanu Kumar. Okay, he's very active. Bhanu Kumar. Decrease in the value of a currency, it happens because of demand and supply for currency in the market. Okay, decrease in the value of currency, usually every day, it may either decrease or it may increase. It happens in the market because of demand and supply of currency. But when we talk about devaluation, this is decrease in the value which is purposefully done by the government. Indian government, suppose Indian government itself purposefully decreases the value of Indian rupee, then we call it as devaluation. If because of less demand for the Indian rupee, the price or value of Indian rupee decreases, we don't call it as devaluation. Okay, it is done by the government, but our government alone cannot devalue our currency. It has to be done with the approval of IMF, International Monetary Fund, and other countries against whose currency we are decreasing our own value of our own currency, those countries must also accept it. Okay, we cannot arbitrarily do it. ನಮ್ಮ ಪಾಡಿಗೆ ನಾವು ನಮ್ದು ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ರುಪೀದ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆಯವರು ಕೂಡ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಒಪ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. Okay, so this devaluation can be done against one country or a group of countries. Now, why a country would like to decrease the value of its own currency? Mainly to encourage exports and discourage imports. Encourage exports and discourage imports. Why? Now, suppose there is a balance of payment crisis in the country. We have to import a lot of goods, maybe petrol, diesel from Gulf countries, but we don't have sufficient money to make the payment. We don't have sufficient foreign exchange, foreign currency with us to make the payment. It becomes very difficult. Now, if we decrease the price of value, rather, it is not price, value. If we decrease value of Indian rupee, then our commodities here, they become cheaper. Okay? Because an American, if he pays 50 rupees per kg of rice, okay, 50 rupees per kg of rice, he would get 1 kg. Now, if the exchange rate between American dollar and the Indian rupee is, for every 1 American dollar, okay, it is 75 rupees. Suppose 1 American dollar is equal to 75 rupees. By paying 1 American dollar, an American importer can purchase 1.5 kgs of rice. Okay, 1.5 kgs of rice. Because 1 kg of rice is equal to 50 rupees. Now, if the Indian government devalues Indian currency, okay, instead of paying 75 rupees to get 1 American dollar, we may have to give 100 rupees. But from the export point of view, it is advantageous because an American importer, he can purchase 2 kgs with 1 American dollar, because earlier he was purchasing 1.5 kgs. 1 American dollar was equal to 75 rupees. 1 kg of rice was equal to 50 rupees. So he could get 1.5 kgs of rice for $1. But now Indian rupee has become cheaper. For 1 American dollar, he gets 100 rupees. With 100 rupees, he can purchase 2 kgs of rice. So Indian export of rice to America increases. This is the idea. At the same time, okay, imports will decrease because instead of giving 75 rupees to import American wheat, 1 kg wheat, we have to give 100 rupees to get the same 1 kg wheat. So imports become costly. So it will set right the balance of payment. So this is the idea, but there are associate problem also. So I don't go into details because I don't have time now. So what happens to the impact of devaluation of currency? If the demand for export commodity is inelastic in foreign countries, the export will not increase due to devaluation of currency. Whether it is 50 rupees or 75 rupees, 60 rupees, whatever may be the price, American importer will import only 1.5 kgs of rice. Demand is inelastic. In that case, even if we devalue Indian rupee, even if the American importer gets 100 rupees per dollar instead of 75 rupees, he will purchase only 1.5 kgs. Then our export will not increase. It won't get a boost. So if the demand for export commodity is inelastic in foreign countries, the export will not increase due to devaluation of our currency. If the demand for import goods in our country is inelastic, imports will not decrease. Whether the price of American wheat is 70 rupees, 80 rupees, 90 rupees, we want American wheat. If that is the situation, inelastic, then devaluation will not help, because we are ready to purchase. Instead of paying 75 rupees per kg, we are ready to pay 100 rupees per kg and purchase because it is inelastic. Okay. Now, coming to income elasticity of demand. Hitherto, up to this point, we were discussing about the price elasticity of demand. Here, now we'll take up income elasticity of demand. Please keep your microphone in mute condition. Okay. So the coefficient of income elasticity of demand, very similar to your price elasticity of demand. In case of price elasticity, percentage change in quantity demanded because of percentage change in price. But when we talk about income elasticity, it is percentage change in quantity demanded because of percentage change in income. Earlier we discussed what happens to quantity demanded if the price changes. Now we are talking about what will be the change in quantity demanded if the income changes. Okay, that's the only difference. The coefficient of income elasticity of demand, price elasticity, we used EP. Income elasticity, we denote it with EY. Okay. Measures the percentage change in quantity of commodity purchased per unit of time, delta Q by Q, resulting from a given percentage change in consumers' income, delta Y by Y. In the previous section, this was delta P by P. Here it is delta Y by Y. Y represents income. So income elasticity is equal to percentage change in quantity demanded by percentage change in income. So Q2 minus Q1 by Q1 into 100, Y2 minus Y1 divided by 100 into 100, 100 and 100, they get cancelled. So it is Q2 minus Q1 by Q1, Y2 minus Y1 by Y1. Okay, so Q2 minus Q1 is the change in quantity divided by original quantity, that is Q1. Y2 minus Y1, change in income, delta Y. So original income, that is Y1, we denote it with Y. So delta Q by Q, if you take it the other way, it becomes delta Q by Q into Y by delta Y. So it can be rearranged and written as delta Q by delta Y by into Y by Q. The difference between price elasticity and income elasticity from the point of view of formula is delta Q by delta Y. There we used delta P, change in price, and original price. In income elasticity, we use change in income and the original income. That is the difference. But while explaining the income, price elasticity of demand, I repeatedly told that ignore the sign, ignore the sign, we ignore the sign. But when we discuss about income elasticity, sign becomes important. So here, in case of income elasticity of demand, we consider the sign. Okay, sign of the coefficient of income elasticity. Suppose delta Y, change in income is positive and change in quantity is negative, then because it is delta Q by delta Y, right? I'll go back. It is delta Q by delta Y. Okay, delta Q by delta Y. So delta Q by delta Y, negative by positive, income elasticity would be negative. If the income elasticity is negative, income elasticity of demand, of course, is negative, then the commodity that we are purchasing is an inferior good. Okay, suppose it is the rice available in the say ration shop. Okay, it is the rice available in the ration shop. If our income is low, we purchase more of that commodity. But when our income increases, we purchase less because we can afford to purchase better quality rice outside. Okay, so if the income elasticity is negative, then the commodity is an inferior good. Suppose change is positive, change in income is positive, and change in quantity is also positive, delta Q by delta Y. Positive by positive, elasticity is positive. Then it is a normal good. Okay, the commodity that we purchase is a normal good. When we say normal good, here positive, it can be 0 to 1 or more than 1. If it is 0.5, it is positive. If it is 0.75, then also it is positive. If it is 2, positive. If it is 10, positive. So anything 0 to infinity is positive. But here again, we further classify it as if the EY, the income elasticity is between 0 and 1, the commodity is of one type. If the elasticity is more than 1, then the commodity is of other type. What they are, we'll look into. Positive EY, if it is greater than 1, though it is normal good, of course it is a normal good, but it is a luxury good. That means when our income increases, we purchase more proportion of the commodity, luxury good. But if the elasticity is between 0 and 1, it is a normal good, positive, but it is a necessity, agatyavadatu, essential commodity. So what you can remember is 0 to 1, positive, necessary commodities. More than 1, normal, a luxury good. Negative, it is an inferior good. Okay. A good may be a luxury at low levels of income. The same commodity can be a necessity at intermediate levels of income, and the same commodity, it can be inferior good at high levels of income. Let us take, just to give an example, a bicycle, cycle. Okay, suppose I am working as a laborer in some construction work. Okay, apartment construction or building construction is going on, and I am working as a manual laborer there, carrying bricks, carrying cement, sand, and so on. At that level of income, a cycle can be a luxury. Okay, for me, a cycle can be a luxury. Suppose I get promoted as the maestri there, okay, to supervise the work there. Then the same cycle may become a necessity. But if I become the contractor there, then cycle becomes an inferior good. I would like to come by a motorbike or a car. After becoming the contractor, I will not like to go by a cycle. I want a motorbike or a car. Then the same cycle becomes an inferior good. The commodity is the same. The good is the same, but the level of income decides whether it is a luxury, whether it is a necessity, or whether it is an inferior good. Understood? Are you with me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Now, what is the practical utility of income elasticity of demand? Where it is useful? Demand forecasting of a firm. Because to take up the production planning, they want to know what could be the demand next year. What could be the demand in another 5 years? What could be the demand in next 10 years? Because I want to invest a lot of money in the activity, in the business. So demand forecasting is very important. So if the rate of increase in income and the income elasticity for the products are known, if we know what is the income elasticity, future demand for a firm's product can be estimated. Because every, suppose the government is planning to set up another pay commission, the government employees are going to get higher income, their salaries will increase. So whether they will purchase more of this commodity. If we know that income elasticity, then I can plan my production. So production and marketing plan. So knowledge of elasticity, income elasticity is essential for production planning, formulating marketing strategy, deciding advertising expenditure and nature of distribution channel, whether I should employ wholesaler, distributor, retailer. So all this depends on the income elasticity. Previously, when the pay commission announced higher salary for government employees, immediately many of the car agents, that is the dealers, car dealers in Bangalore, okay, they started coming to GKVK campus and put Shamiana there, keep all the pamphlets and bring one car there, keep it for demonstration. And they were trying to attract the teachers to buy car because the income elasticity. Suddenly, the salaries of all the lecturers, all the professors, teachers increased. So they would purchase cars. Till then, they were having two-wheelers, scooters or motorbikes. Many of them were coming by city buses. Now, suddenly the income increases. They are going to purchase more of cars. So your income elasticity helps in marketing planning also. And ensuring stability in production. Proper estimation of different degrees of income elasticity of demand for different types of products helps in avoiding overproduction and underproduction. If we know whether our good is inferior good or superior good or a normal good, necessity, then what will be the response of the consumers to increase or decrease in the income? We can avoid excess production and we should not feel bad by producing less when the demand is more. So in this way, the income elasticity of demand, this concept, the values, okay, they help the producers. And cross elasticity of demand. Cross elasticity is the difference between, okay, price elasticity, income elasticity, and cross elasticity is, while discussing about price elasticity, we try to find out the relationship between the quantity demanded and price, quantity demanded and income. But here, when we talk about cross elasticity, we try to find out the relationship between price of one commodity, quantity demanded of other commodity. Okay, price of one commodity, quantity demanded of other commodity. If the price of rice increases, what happens to quantity demanded of ragi? If the price of tur dal increased, what happens to the price, quantity demanded of moong dal or something like that, okay? So two different commodities, price of one, quantity demanded of other. So the coefficient of cross elasticity of demand of a commodity X with respect to commodity Y, okay? So two different commodities. So we write it as EPXY, price elasticity, but two different commodities, X and Y. It measures the percentage change in the amount of X purchased per unit of time, delta QX by QX, resulting from a given percentage change in the price of Y, delta PY by PY. But earlier it was delta PX by delta PX, but now it is delta PY by PY. So quantity of one commodity, price of other commodity. That's why we call it as cross elasticity. The formula derivation, it is the same. Quantity QX2 minus QX1 by QX1 into 100. Instead of PX, we say PY2. PY2 PY by PY1, 100, 100 and 100, they get cancelled. Ultimately, we get delta QX by delta PY. Quantity of one, price of the other. Original price of one, the quantity of the other. Now, here also, sign is very important. The sign indicates what is the relationship between two commodities. What is the relationship between X and Y? Okay, so here, price of Y, change in price of Y, positive. That means the price of Y increases. Quantity demanded of X increases. Can you guess what could be the relationship between the two commodities? Can you guess? When the price of Y increases, the quantity demanded of the other commodity increases. Then what could be the relationship between X and Y? What type of goods are these X and Y? Okay, because of paucity of time, I directly go there. EPXY is positive, okay, because both are positive. Both numerator and denominator are positive, so EPXY is positive. Then X and Y are substitutes. Because if you say coffee and tea, I usually use that example so that it get etched in your memory, in your mind. If coffee and tea, if the price of coffee increases, PY positive, price of coffee increases, PY positive, the demand for coffee decreases. But what happens to demand for tea? Demand for tea increases. So quantity of tea increases. So price of P increases, demand for T increases. So EPXY is positive, X and Y are substitutes. Instead of coffee, you may consume tea. Then change in price is positive of Y. Change in price of Y is positive, whereas change in quantity of X is negative. Okay, so there is EPXY is negative. Usually I give the example of car and petrol. Okay, when the price of car increases, it was 2 lakhs, now it has become 3.5 lakhs. Price has increased. Naturally, the quantity PY is positive. That is, price of one commodity increases, but the demand doesn't change at all. Demand doesn't change at all. Then EPXY is 0. Now, what could be the relationship between X and Y? Okay. Now, it is like the price of say fans, your table fan or ceiling fan, the price of fan increases. What happens to quantity demanded of t-shirts? Okay, quantity of demand for table fans increase. What happens to quantity demanded of t-shirts? There is no change in the quantity demanded of t-shirt because of change in the price of table fans. Okay, so X and Y are independent or non-related goods. Then practical application of cross elasticity of demand. What is the practical application of cross elasticity of demand? If accurate measures of cross elasticity of demand are available, if you have the information on cross elasticity, the coefficient, a firm can forecast the demand for its product and adopt necessary safeguard. It is not safeguard, sorry, it is safeguard. Safeguard against fluctuating prices of substitutes or complements. If you know what will happen if the price of coffee increases, whether the price of coffee increases, then what will be the response of the consumers, whether they are addicted to coffee or whether they can switch over from coffee to tea. If you have this information, the income elasticity information, then you can adjust your business to changes in the market. The pricing and marketing strategy of a firm would depend on the extent of cross elasticity between different alternative goods. Petrol, car. The car manufacturers, petrol sellers, okay, they will have to adjust their pricing and marketing, especially the car manufacturers. Okay, petrol sellers, it depends on the international market prices, but car manufacturers, yes, if they know about the cross elasticity of demand for petrol, then they can adjust their pricing and marketing strategy. Coming to price elasticity of supply. Hitherto we were discussing about the price elasticity of demand. Now we are moving over to price elasticity of supply. I think I'll have to go through a bit faster here because the concept is the same. Only thing is, instead of quantity demanded, it is quantity supplied. Okay, the coefficient of price elasticity of supply here, instead of writing EP we used for demand. Here we add S to denote that it is related to supply. We use P to denote that it is price elasticity. Okay, E for elasticity, P for price here, S for the supply. Okay, EPS measures the percentage change in the quantity supplied of a commodity per unit of time resulting from a given percentage change in price of the commodity. It is the same. Elasticity of supply is equal to percentage change in quantity supplied divided by percentage change in price. While discussing about price elasticity of demand, we had demand here, we used supply. So it is the same, delta Q by delta P into P by Q. But only addition here is S to denote supply, where EPS indicates elasticity of supply, QS is original quantity supplied, delta QS is the change in quantity supplied, PS is the original price, and delta PS is the change in price. It can be written as delta QS. This is the R elasticity formula to avoid the problem of getting different values when we move between the points. Demand and price elasticity demand, we had moved from B to D and D to B. Similarly, if you move between the points, there'll be problem of getting different values. So instead of that, average, take the average price and the average quantity, PS1 plus PS2 divided by PS1 plus PS2. How much time do I have?
ಸರ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಸರ್ ಟೈಮ್.
Thank you.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್.
Thank you. Thank you. And I need one more class. Okay. I need one more class and then I'll wind up. Bye, everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye, sir.
Record.